I am a pretty lazy person. I don't take work home with me. I don't like spending like hours on grading and like paperwork type stuff. But that's always really hard to balance when you really want your students to do well because the feedback process is so important. When my students first took their county assessment this year at the beginning of the year, this is what their score distribution looked like. Now, I know I can teach, but I was having trouble getting my students to dig deep and really retain their learning. My math coach at the school actually showed me a new evaluation process that I began implementing. And once I kind of tweaked it around and kind of made it really my own, and I was using it all the time, and I noticed that my students' scores on the next assessment jumped to this. And that was over just the course of one semester. Although this is not where I want my students to stop growing, I definitely want more mastery to show up on the county assessments. The fact that my class was performing behind the school and behind the district in the first assessment, but grew to outperforming both in the second assessment was something that was just really exciting for me and my kids. One of the primary changes I made was implementing a new evaluation process that allowed students to measure their growth and allowed me to provide quick, meaningful feedback that was descriptive and really gave them steps on how to grow, which I always, like I said, found way too time consuming in the past. This process helped me feel more motivated to do the county performance tasks as well as my own like rich tasks in general. It helped me share meaningful feedback with my students. It helped me make rigorous instruction less anxiety inducing and more accessible to all of my students. And it increased literacy practices in my classroom. And the best part is it took up way less of my time, gave me less to think about and less to plan, but made way more of an impact. So if you keep watching, I would love to share with you some glimpses into my classroom of me using this process and what some of my students have to say about it.
All right, bring it back for me real quick. I need a hand. What does the M stand for? John, what does the M stand for? What does that mean?
It meets all the requirements.
What it means? Don't use the word to define it. Give me another word.
Okay.
My phone a friend? Yes.
It reaches the point where you're supposed to be. Like, that's what's expected.
Good. It reaches your expectation. Beautiful. Okay. What does the D mean?
Developing.
Raise your hand. I haven't gone yet. Yes.
D means developing. It means that it could have been better, but like some parts of it were okay. It just needed some more.
Good. Perfect. All right. What about X? Raise your hand. What does X stand for?
Exceeding.
Yes.
Exceeding basically is that so like since was like you met the expectations, it means that you did even better than meeting all of the expectations.
Okay. You did even better. What could you do to do even better than meeting expectations? Give me an example. Like, what would you do? Somebody else. I love the hand. Somebody else. What could you do that would be even better than meeting expectations? What could you do in your writing? Talk to each other for a minute and see if you can come up with an answer. What could you do in your writing that goes beyond the expectation? 3, 2, and 1. I heard a lot of conversations, so I should see way more hands, so I'll ask the question again. What could you do extra to get an exceeding instead of a meet? Now let me go around the room. Back table. One person. What'd you guys talk about? More detail. Okay. Yes.
Defining and explaining in key terms how you got your answer, like explaining your understanding and how you got the answer, and like key terms like defining certain words. Let's say you're doing exponential functions, you can define what it means and like how you got like the rate and stuff like that.
Good. I love that. Anything else you want to add? Okay. All right. So what I want us to do is think about these 4 levels. Raise your hand. What does the E stand for? Kevin, what does the E stand for?
I don't know how to pronounce that.
Try it.
Energizing?
Not energizing. What does the E stand for? Help him out.
Urging.
Emerging, emerging, emerging. Go ahead and use cubes if you prefer guys on the board. Go ahead and use cubes for the entire page. Okay? Once you are done, you are going to open Google Classroom and you are going to add attachment to the assignment that's on there, and you're going to go ahead and write your response. Okay? Cubes the task, and then attachment on Google Classroom to write your response.
Writing in math helps me beyond like just doing math problems in the way it's like you understand everything way better because you see the steps it takes in order to solve an equation, and like you get to see like all the understanding and like the vocabulary words prior to like solving the equation.
Writing in math help me because we use like keywords to understand the pronoun.
Writing helps us in math is that it helps us understand more the steps and how to do the math problems.
I think writing helps because it helps me explain my problem better. As like maybe if you're presenting something, you just say like, oh, I did this step in a problem, but you can't say that when like it's on paper. So when you write about it, it's easier to explain.
Writing helps me in math because if I can just solve the problem, like just doing the formula and stuff, that's okay too. But for me to be able to explain it, that helps a lot because it shows that I really get what I just did.
For me, writing helps me because it makes me put like things into more detail. If I just solve it, doesn't mean everyone else can understand what I solved.
So you guys have your half sheets out, which is the performance task that you guys did on Friday. If you go to Google Classroom, you will see your response that you submitted and the rubric score that we returned back to you. So go to Google Classroom right now, and I want you to look at the rubric score. Is you are going to open Nearpod, and you should have a app for that. So go ahead, open Nearpod, and you're going to put in this code to join the lesson for today. I need somebody to read today's object. Look at all these hands. Look at all these hands. Who don't read? Come, Lavi. Go ahead.
Today, we will be able to explore how to strengthen our reasoning skills and our writing. Then we will edit our first drafts from our performance test.
So from the rubric, all the stuff that I graded, what skill are we really focusing on today? Look at the objective. What skill are we really focusing on today, Danielle? Reasoning. All right, reasoning. Okay? What is reasoning? I need a new reader. Brad, I saw your hand first. Go ahead.
Reasoning is the part of our writing where we slowly understand math beyond just
Procedural. Go ahead.
Procedural stuff. This is where we define important vocabulary words and explain why we take certain steps.
Okay, so reasoning is when you explain to me why you did something. All right? So some of you guys told me on your task, I subtracted the 1 from both sides. That's procedural. Why did you subtract 1 from both sides? That's what I need to see in your writing. Okay? That'll help me see if you understand it or not. When my mom first came to America, she came in 1992 when she got married. Okay, she didn't speak any English. All right, she spoke 0 English. My dad's job gave him, they had English classes like in the basement. So she would go with my dad to work. She would go take her English classes. And then my dad would go to do his work like on whatever floor he works at. Okay? So you are going to pretend you are my mom. All right? And you are starting off for like just got here. All right, you don't speak no English. And I give you a test. And the test tells you you have to draw a red apple with a leaf. Okay, just listen. You have to draw a red apple with a leaf. What I want you to do is you are going to draw what that would look like for somebody at each of the 4 letters. What would it look like if you were emerging? What would your drawing look like? What would it look like if you were developing? If you got a developing on your drawing? What would it look like if you met the expectation? And what would it look like if you exceeded the expectation? You're giving me 4 drawings on your iPad. You cannot zoom in. You're right. You can't zoom in. You have 5 minutes. Go. All right, time is up. 5, you are in your seat. 4, your voices are off. 3, your eyes are on the board. 2, 1, and 0. Okay, let's look. These drawings look very interesting. Some are very different from each other. Let's look at this one. Okay, here's my question. The question told you draw a red apple with a leaf. When I look at this first picture, what can I tell about what my mom knows? What does she know? Yes. That apples might be a circular object. Anything else? Do you think she knows what red means? No, she doesn't know what red means yet. She doesn't know what a leaf is. Okay, cool. Let's look at the next picture, the developing stage. Raise your hand again. What can you tell she knows? What does she know? Jamie, what does she know?
The color.
She knows the colors. She knows her colors. Do you think she knows what an apple is still? No. Maybe not really. Okay. All right. Let's look at the meats. What can you tell she knows? Brad, what does my mom know?
She knows what an apple is.
She knows what an apple is. How can you tell?
Because she drew it with a leaf and everything that she told her to do.
Okay, so she drew a red shape with a green leaf. So I know she knows her colors. Okay, yes, Samuel. Give me 1 second. Let me talk about the meats real quick. Okay, she did what I asked her to do. She knows that apples are these red-shaped things, and then she drew a green leaf. So she knows that leaves are what color? Green. So she knows what a leaf is. Uh-huh. Say it again. Well, I already have somebody doing X. Well, maybe you can add on. Samuel, what does my mom know in the X category?
She knows that where apples come from and how they grow.
Good. She knows where they come from, which is what? What did she draw? A tree. My fake mom drew a tree. Okay, so she drew a tree, so she knows that apples grow in trees. Anything else you want to add? That he took your answer? Okay, so she knows something more about apples. Not just drawing them or what it is. She knows, I love how you said it. She knows where they come from. She knows where they grow. She knows more details about apples. Okay? Your writing, when you're thinking about what to add, I'm just looking at your writing and trying to figure out what do you know. Okay? I'm trying to figure out what do you know when you're writing. All right? So let's keep moving on. All right? When I'm grading you, so everybody look at your half sheet. Look at your performance test. Look at your performance test. Okay? To get a level M, to meet your expectation, what do you think I want to see on your paper?
Evidence?
Raise your hand. Raise. Yes.
Evidence?
What's evidence? What is that?
Reasoning.
What's reasoning? That's some beautiful words. What is that? Yes.
I think what you want to see on the paper is how you were able to solve the problem, put out the stats, put out show your work, and then use the problem to try to collect evidence.
I'm going to pause you right there because you said a lot of great things. She wants to see your work step by step. Okay, every step of your work, so I know that you know how to solve it. What else? What else do I want to see on your paper to get it, to just meet the expectation? Just get an M.
A sentence explaining your answer.
Okay, sentence is explaining every step. Okay, a sentence explaining every step. Anything else?
Direction, how to.
You sure? I'll come back to you. Anybody else? Yes.
Showing you that we understand how to do it.
But what can you show me that shows me that you understand?
In the equation, the equation, how it's described.
Good. An equation. I would love to see an equation. Okay. Let's push it. How can you go from an M to an X? What can you add that would increase? You could add some steps. What else? Huh? Reasoning. What is that? What's explanation and reasoning? I love using these words. What is that? What is all that? Yes.
Showing your evidence.
Showing your evidence. What does that mean? Raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand. Yes. Okay, good. Showing how you understand. Some of you guys are telling me how to solve the equation. I want you to tell me how that applies to the context. So the context is me and Miss Fulton go to the store. Okay? How does all the math you're doing connect to how I'm trying to figure out how much each journal is? Use the real world in your explanation as well. Yes, what do you want to add? Nothing? All right, good. Look, yes, I want to see your level of understanding. Okay? So, one last thing we're going to do before I give you some more tools to actually do your writing piece is there's a question that's going to show up in a second. The question is x plus 1 equals 4, solve for x. X plus 1 equals 4, solve for x. You are going to see 4 different answers to the question, and you have to match which answer matches with which level for your performance test. Okay? Go ahead and try that. There's 4 answers on your iPad. Which answer matches with which level for your performance test? So the last thing I'm going to give you is a checklist, a criteria for success. You are going to write your final draft of your response today on paper. Okay? You guys are Math 8. This is your checklist. If you include everything in your checklist, what level should you get? An X. Okay? If you include parts of it, it'll line up with the different levels that are on there. The check boxes line up with the level that you can get. All right? So go ahead, use the rubric or use the checklist and try to try to write your final draft of your response today. Your goal is to get a what? X or an M. An M or an X.
We feel that the EDMX grading helps us more because it actually explains how we did on our work, I guess, and like how it has rubrics and it really helps us, understand what we're doing, like, and how we're doing it, I guess.
And if we get like, let's say an M instead of an X, the rubric shows what you're missing and how you can improve it in the next time you do it. Instead of a percentage, just shows you what you got out of like a certain number.
EDMX helps me because it shows like where I'm struggling at and how I can better it, instead of like a number grade where that just tells me how good I did instead of helping me in the parts I didn't know where I need help.
The way that EDMX helps me is how, like, for example, if they give me like an M or D, I can see my progress by like showing the letters. Because if it's just numbers, it would just say like, oh, you did this, but it won't like explain how good I am.
EDMX help me like what the reason somebody said that it helped me in what situation I am and how that can help me to do better in the problem. You feel me?
Yeah,
I think it helps me a lot. It helps me better because it makes me try a little harder. So like if one time I get a paper and I get a E, then I'm like, I want to get an X next time. So it makes me want to try.
That helps me a bit more because like you know what each of the letters mean, and if you're at like a letter, you know what you did wrong and what you should like improve on. So it's like way easier to get it right the next time.
So usually when you see like the number grade or like the percent, it makes you feel like sad or depressed. Like, can my grade ever reach like 100 after like being like a 50 or something? But EDMX is like a process, a step. It tells you like, okay, like you're close to getting to where you want to reach. You just need to add like more details or explain more. So I think it's better.
For me, it just
when you see like a score, you probably overthink or something. But when you use the letters, it makes me like, oh, I'm here. Okay, so I know what to work on, and I know I could keep on going and keep on trying my best.
And with me, same with her, because when you just see percentage grades, like it's like, oh, I got a 0 on this, but it's like a 0 is just a 0. A 0 is not telling me how I can improve or what I did wrong. But when I see the EDMX,
Yeah.
EDMX, and like it's different categories and explains what you did wrong and what you did right. So it's better for me when I get.